Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Good morning. First, I'd like to take a moment to read our university land acknowledgement. Thank you. We acknowledge with respect the land our campus is on today was and continues to be the homelands of the indigenous people of this area, the Nisenan Pawanan, Nisenan, and Miwok. The larger Sacramento area and its rivers serve as a gathering place for many local tribes from the surrounding valley and foothills, including the southern Maidu, Patwin, and Winton. We recognize that these lands and riverways as unceded traditional territories of these Native peoples. We further recognize these California Native nations and respect their sovereignty. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm a commitment to build relationships and foster a university environment of success to better serve Native nations and communities. I'd like to introduce our first student performance. It's a musical performance. Please welcome to the stage Joni Shalit from playing violin and Oscar Castaneda playing piano, who will perform Banjo and Fiddle by William Knoll, a piece that features some fiddling techniques. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Welcome to the new chapter of Sac State 2025 2026. Let's go! Welcome to Sac State, a place where your individuality will be celebrated. You would be respected for who you are, and you would find your community, where you would find your home away from home, just like I did mine. And you all might know me as the Combat U girl. With posters around, who is that? Everywhere around. But I'm also an international student from India who packed her entire life in 2 suitcases and came to a whole new country. I imagine standing inside the airport, looking outside the glass window at my parents, thinking, I don't know when I'm gonna see them next. But I know what to look ahead to. That was Sac State. And being here now, I have the honor to be the student founder of Combat U, the first of its kind martial arts program. Thank you, Dr. Wood. The president of 2 clubs, Combat U MMA and Combat U Jiu-Jitsu, and an ambassador for the Way of the Hornet campaign. And now, the first ever international student in the Sac State history to be the student body president of Sac State. But there's something that I say from martial arts. When you are in the cage, you're never alone. It's the team behind you that brings you there and is supporting you and rooting for you. So I am a student who relies on my family, my friends, my mentors on each and every step that I take. And talking about mentors, I'm going to talk about the first mentor and a role model for me in the US and at Sac State, President Dr. Luke Wood. He is someone who is not new to Sac State. He was a student here and also part of student government. Go ASI! And it is an honor that I began my journey at Sac State in the same academic year when President Wood became our president. And in these years, I've seen him lead with a heart. I've seen him listen to students, start Combat U, start the Black Honors College, now the Native American College. And let's keep all of that aside. What's the first thing he did when he came to Sac State? He did 100 days of listening. He wanted to hear what are the students going through before he made his plan. And that tells a lot about him, that he leads with a heart, and we students, we see that. And on top of it, in 2 years, he has brought so much transformation that now we're also known as Sac State. He's the kind of person who would see at every event with his super cool dunks and sneakers, and someone who would go out, talk to students, and just ask them how they're doing. And that's the kind of leadership Sac State is really proud of, and we students really recognize. And I want to say that thank you, Dr. Wood, for the change you're bringing on campus. I've witnessed it from day one, and I'm looking forward to what's to come, which are great things. And one thing that he has proven is that Sac State is at its best when students and leadership go hand in hand. So let's give a raucous round of applause for our president, President Dr. Luke Wood.
All right, good morning. Oh, that was good. A lot of energy back. So first I want to begin by thanking our student body president, Aranjot, for that wonderful introduction. It's pretty awesome when you can say that, our student body president could beat up your student body president. That's a joke. It's a joke. But also true. I also want to thank Joni on the violin and Oscar on the piano. I thought that was awesome. And everybody who knows me knows I love to play on the piano, but I never say I'm a piano player. And the reason is when I see someone play like that, I'm like, yeah, I don't play piano. I just play bar tunes. So before we begin my formal remarks, I want to take a moment to reflect on the contributions of our late faculty and staff and students. This year, as a campus community, we have experienced some difficult losses among the Hornet family. Sadly, we lost some of our faculty members, like Vanessa Arnaud, who touched the lives of countless students through her leadership, teaching, and leading study abroad groups. We lost students like Jacqueline Gutierrez, who joined the Hornet family as a freshman in 2022 and had recently become part of the law enforcement candidate school. At the time of her passing, Jackie had been promoted to community service officer corporal. And there are many others who have lost this past year. But one recent loss is particularly unexpected and had a more of a personal impact on me because of my relationship with this individual. And I know for many of us are reeling from the loss of Dr. Martin Boston. Like many of you, I knew him well and considered him to be a trusted colleague, a friend. Martin was the director of the Black Serving Institution Initiative here for Sacramento State, a member of the Senate Executive Committee, and a fellow colleague of the Divine Nine. This loss has cut deep for many of us, and we will ensure that our university never forgets his life and legacy, as well as those others who have passed on. So I'd ask you all to join me in a moment of silence to honor our faculty, staff, and students that we've lost over this last year. Thank you. Now, when we lose members of our community, it serves as a reminder to us that the work that we do here at Sacramento State is not just a job. And it's certainly not about the money. It's about something far greater than that. It's a life mission. It's a calling to bring about change and good in a world ripe with contradictions and asymmetries of power. And while we face innumerable challenges with state funding, national enrollment challenges, the Trump administration, the light that shines here at Sacramento State is far greater than the darkness of our times. I'm grateful for our tradition of gathering at the beginning of the semester. It's my opportunity to talk with you and share our vision and priorities for this academic year. We welcome this chance to outline the institutional priorities and clarify strategic direction, to celebrate our accomplishments and to explain the challenges that we are currently facing. Everything we do as an institution is connected to the idea that we are stronger when we intentionally make space for different kinds of people to participate in the work we do here. The ways in which we approach our budget, our enrollment, our responses to the federal government, and other challenges of our time all connect back to our institutional identity. Let's first take a moment to talk about enrollment. As you all know, enrollment has been a concern for colleges and universities across the nation. Nearly every state and every college has had to rethink, reinvest, and reframe who they are during this time. During the Great Recession, fewer individuals had children, and we're now at the age where those students who would have been born during that time would be in college, and so there are far fewer college students between 2025 to 2029 that we'll be seeing. This is called the Great Recession, but it's called the enrollment cliff, right? So the Great Recession led to the enrollment cliff. And this has been concerning, as you all know, in the Cal State system. In Northern California, we're one of the few institutions, basically it's us and one other, that are doing well in terms of enrollment. And this is also complicated at a time when many people are beginning to question the value of a college degree. Is it really worth going to college? And openly framing having a collegiate degree as something that's bad instead of something that's powerful and good and can change your life. Fortunately, at Sacramento State, despite these kind of national challenges on enrollment, we're doing a little bit different. As of yesterday, we have 30,578 students enrolled. That is the largest total number of students to ever attend Sacramento State outside of the pandemic era when classes were fully online. Even more, we have 8,340 new students who are coming in. This includes our new freshmen or frosh, our transfer students, students who stopped out and decided to come back to Sacramento State. And this makes it the second largest incoming class in the university's 80-year history, second only to last fall. So with all these students, the provost is again working with our deans to now open up more classes to accommodate 7,000 students that we have on our waiting list. The new addition of classes complements the large number of courses that were reinstituted in early summer after the budget picture improved. So in short, we are big. We are really big, and we are growing. We need an expert to help us avoid many of the pains that many other campuses have had, and so we're in the middle of a search for a vice president for enrollment. This position will be critical to ensuring our future resident growth, but also to aggressively pursue non-resident students from across the nation and world. And I'll return back to my explanation as to why we want to do that later. So in a normal time, everything that I just said would be great news. However, as you all know, we have been given targets from our state to grow, and we're growing. We're doing those targets, but we have far fewer resources to do it with. This makes the growth both celebrated and difficult to manage. Over the summer, we learned that the final state budget did not include the anticipated 7.95% cut to the CSU, which was great news. And that is really due to intensive lobbying from many of our labor partners, particularly the California Faculty Association, CSUEU, Teamsters, and our other unions as well. In addition to the work that our labor partners did with the legislature, Cal State system also contributed in terms of having conversations with legislators, our faculty, our staff, our students, our alumni partners. Everyone was all in, and it was successful. The proposed $375 million cut that threatened the CSU system was reduced to $144 million, a 3% deferral to fiscal year 2026-27. However, while there is good news there, that 3% was adjoined with cuts in other areas, which means that the cut that came to the CSU was sizable. Not only was it the 3% of the budget deferred till next year, but $252.3 million in compact funds was deferred for future years. Now, the compact is really where I want to focus our attention, because really our budget picture is a combination of several different things, but one of them is not just our state allocation, but the compact. So compact refers to a 2022 agreement between the governor and the CSU chancellor. The goal was to provide the CSU with a 5% annual increase in state support over 5 years in exchange from a commitment from the CSU to ensure that CSU campuses can serve more students and improve student success rates. Though we did receive those increases in funding during the first 2 years of the compact, we only got 2.5% last year, and this fiscal year compact funds were deferred, meaning the CSU is not receiving the $252 million this year, of which Sac State's portion would be $14 million. By the way, that's about the size of the budget gap that we're trying to fill, is that $14 million. So we do not have $14 million that would have funded salary and benefit cost increases. In addition, the presentation at the July Board of Trustees meeting shared the projected state fiscal outlook, and the news was grim. What had turned into a $2 billion deficit last year balloon in the vigilance, talking about what we're looking at as a state budget outlook. Given this fiscal outlook, it's highly unlikely that the compact deferrals or any of the deferrals of state funds are going to be coming in, not because the state doesn't want to do it, but because there's no resources to give us. They can't give us what they don't have. At our local level, these cuts, additional expenses, and unfunded commitments translate beyond that 14 million to over 20 million that we're adjusting for this year. And adjusting for these cuts will be further complicated by the fact that 85% of our budget goes to salary and benefits. So we did start with cuts with administrative positions. These cuts included position eliminations, combining positions, hiring freezes for administrative positions. Though extremely difficult to make these cuts, to these positions, we felt like it was a responsible thing to do to start with administration. Because ultimately, while we believe that the work that we do is very important, what happens in the classroom is where the magic sauce is. In addition to our budget concerns, we also face challenges on a number of different policy stances held by the current presidential administration. Since January, we've lost 6 grants worth approximately $3 million, and sadly, we expect to lose more in the coming months, particularly from the Department of Education, if it exists. Critical programs are losing federal funding, including CAMP, HEP, Campus, and DHSI grants. Some of the larger grants we lost directly supported students like the CSU LSAMP program. That the Lewis Stokes Alliances for Minority Participation grants, which supported STEM students from underrepresented groups from across the CSU, which is coordinated here through Sac State. We also lost Jumpstart, a program that trained college students to work with preschool children in low-income neighborhoods, and URISE, an NIH grant that provided research training to students. Thanks to a lawsuit, never thought I'd say that as a starting point, but thanks to a lawsuit filed by 22 states, including California, the URISE program has been reinstated, at least for now. These losses don't even include what we expect to be a significant impact at education and healthcare organizations across the nation, given the new federal spending bill, the big something bill. While most budgets are being cut at the national level, one notable exception is ICE. ICE raids, visa revocations, and other restrictions to our undocumented international students and faculty are creating real fear and anxiety. I wish that my reaffirmation here was enough, but it's not. Next week, we'll send out a message with details about trainings, processes, and support services, including information about exactly where the public and private spaces are on campus and what you should do if you encounter a threat in our campus community. Beyond these present challenges, we also face grave difficulties in continuing our efforts to respect, embrace, and foster an environment focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI has become a loaded term for some. Nearly every racial minority group, religious minority group, people with disabilities, members of our pride community, particularly our trans community, feel targeted, at risk, and vulnerable due to policy stances that frame the beautiful tapestry of diversity in our nation as a weakness as opposed to a strength. To anyone who has been feeling the stress and anxiety that federal efforts have created, I want you to know that we're here. We value you and the many ways that you enrich the Sacramento State community. And we will work tirelessly to ensure that you are supported. As the number of college-age students continues to diminish and enrollment challenges are taking place across the country, we have a confluence of different factors that lead us to want to ensure that we're providing a space for students to come to Sacramento State. So what I mean by that is this. If you look across the country, you've seen the elimination of DEI, chief diversity officers, offices of diversity inclusion, ethnic studies, critical race theory, which I'm particularly offended by as a critical race theorist, and a number of other things that have specifically targeted DEI. And you've also seen many colleges and universities respond by not just putting their heads down, but turning their backs, changing names of offices, combining areas, and doing things that do not align with the espoused values. And so what I believe that we should be doing here at Sacramento State, and what we have done historically, is we serve as a safer haven for students. A safer haven right now in our community, but we also have more students coming from other states, particularly states that have these laws in place, because they see Sacramento State as one of the few places that they can come where they will feel like they are valued and cared about. And we have to continue to do that. So while all that darkness is happening across the country, Sacramento State is on the rise, and we encourage those students to come to a place where they're not just going to be a face on a website or a brochure so that people can mark the diversity box, but they can come here and we won't be performative, but actual in the work that we do. These points bring me to a conversation with you all on what we're kind of framing as presidential initiatives. And not presidential initiatives from the federal government, but from our campus, to be clear. And reviewing our strategic action items from our strategic plan and efforts we have engaged to curb challenges associated with budget in the current presidential administration, we really kind of frame the work around 4 imperatives. I like to communicate this conceptual framework that will serve and continue to serve as a guide for the work that we do. So I'll wait till it comes up. There we go. By the way, in the center of this, you can see where it says JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. But I have to say, as a person who's a Star Wars fan, it looks a little bit like a TIE fighter if you can think about it. And if you don't know what that is, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, that worked until Luke, turned in the other ones, but yeah. Okay, so on your screen, you can see a depiction, and these are the 4 initiatives. But at the center of how we think about our strategic imperatives as a campus is justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, because that is a special sauce of who we are. We are a proud Hispanic serving institution. We are a proud Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. We are proud to be the only Black serving institution in the state of California. And I'm going to say something that sounds a little bit surprising, but yes, there's the challenges with all these things around DEI across the country, but in some ways, while it is bad and what is happening is terrible, there's also a glimmer of benefit in it, because it helps to separate the wheat from the chaff. The institutions that would always release statements, we stand with our fill in blank community. We are here to promote diversity, equity, inclusion. We want to create an environment where everyone feels like they belong. But the only thing that they were actually committed to doing was sending out that statement saying that. They weren't actually prepared to do the actual work that came along with it. And so for us, we get to be different. It gets to separate out those institutions so that people know where they should be going. So, and the truth is, many of our minoritized students, if you think about who we serve here at Sacramento State, first generation, low income students of color, like that's who our demographic is. How fortunate are we that we get to do that work? And also how even more important is that at a time when other institutions are turning away. All right, so at the core of what we do is JEDI, but surrounded around that are some other imperatives that are key to where we're going as an institution. One, learning with a return on investment, financial independence, making Sacramento State a national brand, and creating an environment of hope and dignity. And I want to talk about what I mean by those things. So first, let's begin with student success, a broad term that we've been using for years, but what I'm really thinking about it as learning with a return on investment, because if we think about the students that come to Sacramento State, they want to have an incredibly high quality education, but they also want to be able to graduate and have upward socioeconomic mobility to create a better life for themselves and for their families. So return on investment is important. It's a common metric used in financial and economic settings. But our students do invest their money with us. They expect a financial return, but they also invest their time and energy and their hearts. They are right to expect growth in their personal, professional, and civic lives in return, and we must continue to provide it, and we do. This imperative is about continuing to be a university that challenges the trajectory of the lives of our students, their families, and their communities. For most of our students, a college education is a driver of upward mobility, a driver of socioeconomic mobility critical to our state's economy and to our region. We know that 48% of our students come from low-income families, and 57% rely on some form of financial aid to earn their degrees. And many of our students are the first in their families to attend college. So when our students invest in higher education, it's our responsibility to ensure that they are receiving that investment. And again, we're doing that already. A recent report that measured return on investment in California universities and colleges was commissioned by the College Futures Foundation. The report, if you want to go take a look at it, is called Golden Opportunities. It specifically highlighted Sacramento State as one of the top institutions in the state of California providing a return on investment for low and moderate income students. That's important because we're already being distinguished among other institutions in our state in terms of what we're doing to transform lives. As you know, when I started out as president at Sacramento State, and as our student body president mentioned, we had 92 listening sessions that we did, hour and 15 minutes each with 1,500 students, faculty, staff, and alumni, community members. And from those sessions, we developed a list of 23 strategic action items that would help to support our strategic plan. For those of you who weren't here when that happened, I'll remind you why we did that. We had a strategic plan that had goals and it had strategic imperatives for the campus, but there were no action items to reinforce them. And so as a community, we came together to talk about what that should look like. One of the many things that came out of those conversations was to have a certificate of general studies. The certificate of general studies represents a move toward improving a student's return on investment because it tells employers and other relevant contacts that a student has at least 2 years of college. And it represents the skills, abilities, and personal and intellectual growth that they have. When a student attends a community college for 2 years, they walk away with what degree? Associate's degree. When a student attends Sacramento State for 2 years, they walk away with nothing. And so a way of being able to honor that, but also then to be able to go and recruit students back to Sacramento State who might have stopped out right short of that and use it as a way to re-engage them on their pathway to hopefully earning a bachelor's degree with Sacramento State. I'm pleased that the Certificate of General Studies has been successfully established through the curriculum approval process and through our university senate, and is now officially listed in the catalog for the 2025-26 year. So very soon, a whole bunch of folks in this community are going to be getting phone calls. Hey, you know how you attended Sacramento State, but you didn't finish? Come on back, come home. And I think that's a positive thing. We also had another strategic action item on creating and establishing the Black Honors College. And for the students enrolled in the Black Honors College, their return on investment is already impressive and getting better every day. Just 1 year later, The demand to be admitted into the program is phenomenal. This fall, the BHC received 572 applications. And of those 572, 502 students had at least a 3.5 GPA. We admitted and have enrolled 262 of those students, exceeding our fall enrollment goal. So going into this fall, the Black Honors College is going to be at around 450 students. Think about that. In 2 more years, it'll be over 1,000. So what we're doing, it works. And of course, we're very excited, not just about the fact that we have the college, but what's happening within it, the special experiences that students are having, and also their access to special minors, the minor in leadership and leadership in organizations, real estate and land use development, healthcare and aging, and other forthcoming minors that will directly relate to labor market outcomes. And of course, we could not be more proud to say that this fall will begin the start of our Native American College, which we'll talk more about their name and all that at a forthcoming ceremony. And so that college will be led by our very own Dr. Reed, who is, yes, who is one of my sheroes, an amazing human being who brings kindness with her everywhere she goes. And I am so happy that our students are going to be able to be in an environment that's being stewarded by someone with such an amazing heart. So if you are affiliated in any way, shape, or form with our Native American College or our Black Honors College, could you stand up if you're able to just be recognized for a moment? What might be the most obvious example of a return on investment is our new internship program. How many stories have we heard about students who've earned a full-time permanent position with an employer because of an internship? I'm one of them. I'm sure many of us are. And I've heard from hundreds of students about challenges in being able to get internships on campus. This fall, because of a new program that was supported by our student leaders last year, we have 210 new internships that are paid on campus. And while all the internships are incredibly important, I just want to point out one area that is particularly salient for me, and that is the internships that are happening with our students in computer science. So many of you may know that many of our students in computer science have struggled to find work on campus that's directly related to their careers. And that can be challenging, especially if they are a student who's an international student. This creates an opportunity for them now to be able to have work that's related to their field, which is absolutely critical to preparing students for the future. We're also improving our students' return on investment by readying them for a rapidly evolving future. To that end, we want to prepare our students to build, use, and understand artificial intelligence, ensuring its use in ethical and productive ways. And don't worry, we're not teaching students how to create Skynet, for those of you who get that reference. But we cannot allow our students to be left behind in the critical skills that they need to be competitive, especially with countries like Finland and China who've already made learning AI part of the curriculum in early education. We have to be ensuring that our students are being prepared. But it also has to be done in the right way, with leadership coming from our faculty and being a bottom-up initiative at this institution. By the way, I hate that reference, bottom up, because in reality, faculty are really the top of it, and we're just all here helping to support. But that means we're going to have more classes in artificial intelligence. And fortunately, through the Senate process last year, there were more classes that were created. We did the cluster hire in computer science for some faculty members who have expertise in AI. I've shared these plans that we've made, and we're continuing to build upon them and build upon the future. But again, our efforts here at Sacramento State as it relates to AI will be faculty driven. This also brings me to wanting to give you an example of some of the fantastic things that are happening here with our students around this and around a return on investment in general. Maya Westbrook from the Department of Design won first place and $5,000 in the 2024 Metal Building Manufacturers Association Student Design Competition. For winning project projected there, which is awesome, by the way, especially if you can see it up close, was a design for a recreation center to be located in the dirt parking lot next to Shasta Hall. The judges for the competition commended Maya for the, and I quote, simple, elegant sophistication of her design. Maya is an excellent example of how we prioritize learning with a return on investment. Throughout her time, Maya here gained the critical skills that she will need as she continues to develop personally and professionally. We can also look to recent graduates from our College of Education for examples of return on investment. Kimberly Gomez was awarded the Dick Helbert Scholarship from NCORE in New York this past May. And was also selected as the new director of the Dreamer Resource Center here on campus. And our EDD program graduates are truly examples of leadership begins here. Dr. Marvin Reed was hired as an assistant principal for Dublin Unified School District. Dr. Anna Sogaviano was hired as a principal at Garden Valley Elementary School. Dr. Vanessa Vitrago is now superintendent of Modesto City Schools, and Dr. LaToya Jackson became the new visiting dean at the California Community College's chancellor's office. To all of our amazing students who are taking what they're learning in the classroom and translating it into a real impact in the community, you represent the best of what Sacramento State has to offer. That brings me to the second imperative, financial independence. As I said last year, we cannot cut our way to success. That is why one of our imperatives is financial independence. We must find ways to generate revenue so that whether the state budget is lean or robust, we are secure in our ability to offer our students the courses that they need to succeed and offer our faculty and staff the salaries that they deserve. And we have aggressive actions we are putting into place this year that will help to set us up for a strong financial position in the coming years. What does financial independence mean? It means that when the state doesn't fully fund us, that we have means to continue to offer the courses our students need. It means when the federal government cuts grants that fund critical research programs, we have the ability to support our faculty and staff so they can continue doing the important work that they're doing. We have to become financially independent from these state downturns. We need to move the needle this year in finding ways to be more strategic with our resources. But again, it's not just about cutting, we have to grow. Part of this is the Cut the Red Tape Committee, which was part of the strategic plan. After learning about the impressive, and I say impressive bureaucracy here at Sacramento State. By the way, there's a lot of things we're first at in the system, but that's also one of them. Yeah. I'm thinking about, should I say something or am I going to get myself in trouble? I'm going to back up from there. I'm just going to stop right there. We learned about this in the listening sessions, and I've also experienced them myself. We created a strategic action item around this called Cut the Red Tape, a cross-functional committee of 30 plus employees here who identified key opportunities for us to reduce this bureaucracy by analyzing over 150 high priority suggestions and taking a deeper dive into 4 areas: procurement, grants and awards, class scheduling, and brand standards. uncovering root causes through interviews and policy procedure reviews. This wasn't just about reducing costs, it was about reducing workload and stress on our staff. As an example, you shouldn't have to sign and get 15 signatures to buy office supplies, right? We can do better. So our next steps is we're forming a governance committee, which is expanding digital transformation efforts and launching a website to drive process improvement to begin to implement these efforts. Financial independence is part of this, and it is possible. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot expect to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions. We must challenge ourselves to think creatively if we want to achieve this imperative. Allow me to present an example of the kind of creative thinking I'm talking about here. Students, Sinan Rivera, Lily Vang, Z. Zolfer, Miguel Leonardo Dela Cruz, three of whom appeared in this photograph, working under the guidance of Dr. Gregory Hertz in the Department of Psychology, won second place for their poster in the 9th annual conference of the Western Positive Psychology Association. Their poster was titled Measuring Profiles of Perceived Performance Across Multiple Life Role Domains. I have to say, some of the research that our students do is amazing. One of my favorite parts of the year is when they have the research symposia here and walking around and talking to students about the work they're doing. It makes you so proud to be part of Sacramento State and see the work that's happening here. We are second to none. Here's another example. Recent anthropology graduate Itzel Gallardo won the B Medicine Student Travel Award, enabling her to attend the Society for Applied Anthropology conference last spring. While there, she presented her research entitled Weaving Indigenous Practices into Critical Pedagogy, Perspectives from Community and University Educators. Just the title, that's the kind of paper I want to read. How about one more example? Student Yesenia Marquez and Kyler New have been research assistants here since their senior year in exercise science and are now completing their master's degree in kinesiology and exercise science. Their study on the effect of exercise in Parkinson's disease was just covered by KCRA, as you can see on the image on your screen. We have lots of students who are conducting research. We have lots of faculty who are conducting research, and it's at a time when our research enterprise is under attack. But we will still continue to do the good work. We will still continue to do what's necessary to create a better environment for our students. So let's transition here for a quick moment. Ballet Folklorial, led by our artist director, Osvaldo Ramirez, faculty in the Department of Theater and Dance. And students, Salvador Alvarez, Madeline Cedillo, Elias Guerrero. They will be performing two pieces interpreted by the two interpretive pieces of dances. Their performances will be followed by Celino Delegadio, who will be performing an original piece called She Bides Her Time. So let's go to see some of the amazing things that are happening here at Sac State. Selena, that's an original piece, right? Yeah, that's an original piece, folks. Wow. That was awesome. We should just close right there. After those performances, that was great. So I want to thank our Selena, Professor Ramirez, Sarah, Madeline, and Elias. Thank you so much for those performances. So now we talked about financial independence, talked about learning with return on investment. Now I want to talk about Sacramento State as a national brand. And really that's the goal, is to make Sacramento State a national brand. Because part of becoming financially independent means that we have to be able to have increased enrollment, but we also have to have increased enrollment, not just from in-state, but also from non-resident students. So let me also be clear here that becoming a national brand isn't only about athletics. That's just part of it. We will continue to grow our nationally recognized academic programs, our art programs, and political science, criminal justice, so many other things that we specialize in and excel here. We will continue to produce graduates who change communities, our state, and the world for the better. And that's important for part of the work that we're doing here at Sac State. We have, as you all know, some new initiatives that have been happening with athletics. For football, we have a coach who I think everyone met in the spring, came to the spring assembly. We have a new basketball coach here at Sacramento. Might have heard of his name before, Mike Bibby. He'll be joining us at 10:30 for the reception because he wanted an opportunity to meet with our faculty and staff. A little over a year ago, I announced that Sacramento State will be building a new football stadium to replace the aging Hornet Stadium, which has been at end of life for many years. These photos are an example of just how desperate the need is to replace these stands. Just this year, the university had to spend $1.8 million just to keep the stands safe so that our students could use it for football, track and field events, and all the other events that we do as a campus community out there. And we can't continue to do that. We don't have the resources to do that. So yes, we are continuing to build a new stadium, and we're not using any of the general fund dollars to do so. The dollars that are used are specifically earmarked for athletics facilities and cannot be used for any other purpose. And believe me, I wish we could, because we're broke. But I shouldn't say that as a president. We're in need of additional resources to fully fulfill our mission. Right? So part of that is going to be this new stadium, because we have to have a place that we can generate revenue. And we don't have a lot of areas and initiatives on campus that really allow us to do so. Many of you may have seen the news this week that we're in talks to relocate the football stadium component of all the different things that are happening in athletics to Cal Expo. Next week, I'll be presenting to the Cal Expo board, and we'll explain the rationale and how this serves to significantly increase our capacity and significantly decrease costs for the university. Once I've had a chance to do that, I'll be sending a message to the campus community that provides further articulation of the benefits of doing so. I wish I could share more with you now, but I have to wait until after that meeting to be able to do so. Last night, we also had an event, a fundraiser for athletics. Some of you were there at that evening last night, the event last night. And we're very fortunate that not only do we have Mike with us, but also Dr. Shaquille O'Neal is also serving as the volunteer general manager for basketball, and was here in Sacramento last night helping to raise money for the university, as well as money that he's personally donating to help us do the work that we're doing. So we truly appreciate their work. And in the month after we announced Bibby and Shaq, we had a 32% increase in our net audience growth across all platforms for the entire university. So again, it's about driving people to want to come to Sacramento State and eyeballs here. We're playing chess, not checkers. This is a plan that requires patience, but we will see return on these investments. And we're doing so while we're continuing to earn championships in sports like volleyball, golf, tennis, baseball, the list goes on. But if I'm going to mention athletics, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to talk about Combat U, especially with our student body president here. We already have more students who are part of Combat U than all of our 21 intercollegiate athletic programs combined. So it's been incredibly successful. Numerous events are going to be held this year, from national judo championships to regional wrestling to the second Causeway Boxing Classic. Last year's boxing classic between Sac State and UC Davis ended up being the largest collegiate boxing event ever. Not in California, ever. And so we're looking forward. Yep. So we're looking forward to outshining Davis yet once again. And our students doing well. I also have to take a moment to mention one of our coaches, Joseph Morales, who's the jiu-jitsu coach for Sac State, part of Combat U. He was he's been on a television program called The Ultimate Fighter, where basically they compete to get a UFC contract. And just 4 days ago, he was successful in winning his bout, representing Sacramento State, and making his way into the UFC, which is a significant milestone. And one of the awesomest things about it was the entire time he was fighting, they were talking about this program at Sacramento State called Combat U. What's going on there? And that's the kind of thing that we need in terms of continued attention on this campus. Our award-winning academic programs will also make us a national brand. Programs run by our dedicated faculty do groundbreaking research. It supports our students inside and outside the classroom. Let's give me an example of that, of how stellar our community is here. Our Communication Studies MA program, master's program, pictured here, recently earned the National Communication Association's Outstanding Master's Program Award. By winning this award, Communication Studies put their graduate program, the department, and our university in the national spotlight and on the map. So thank you all in communication. The students in that program also spent the last year racking up accolades. And I want to just, in particular, mention a few students: Sharon Rodriguez, recent alums Mark Espinosa, Julian Stacy, Brittany Groats, and Marissa Bruno, who all won top paper awards at regional conferences in addition to that. Here's another example from our Department of Computer Science, represented Sacramento State at the eFest 2025, a national startup pitch competition that was held in Minneapolis last April. Known collectively by their team name Century Sight, students Richie Martinez, Gavin Garcia, Enrique De La Torre, and Huey Do placed in the top 5 out of 25 finalist teams and won 10 grand for their AI-powered firearm detection app. These are just some of the examples that demonstrate how Sacramento State is continuing to be a national brand and how that is translating into more students who want to be here at Sacramento State. And now let me close with the final imperative, which is creating an environment of hope and dignity for our students, but also for the faculty and staff who serve them. What do we mean when we say hope and dignity? Well, as an example, pictured on your slide is Angel Infante and Mike Infante, father and son, who, after 2 decades of working in corrections, came to the CCE EMT program, and both of them received their bachelor's degrees, father and son. They both persevered through many challenges in terms of disabilities, being returning students, but they're shining examples of what happens when we treat others with dignity and respect, and we create an environment where they can succeed. One of the biggest examples of dignity is really around what we're doing around NAGPRA. When I came here in 2023, one of the first things I had to do was testify at the state capitol about our abysmal progress in meeting our obligations under NAGPRA and CalNAGPRA. At that time, a report came from the state that said that we had only repatriated 5% of ancestors that Sacramento State researchers unearthed from the ground here in Sacramento County and in surrounding counties, and then brought to campus for research. It's one of the darkest chapters in Sacramento State's history, and it's one that we share with many other state colleges and universities and private institutions across the country. And so I remember in particular meeting with one of an elder from one of our local tribes. I won't say which one. And he said to me, he says, you all see this as ancient history, but I remember when researchers from Sacramento State came to our lands. I remember when they unearthed my grandfather and took him away. And the only thing I want to do before I pass on is be able to see my grandfather return to the ground here. That was a very powerful moment for me, a very emotive conversation, but also one that set us on a different path. And fortunately, with incredible work done by a team of people, including Dr. Mark Wheeler and many others, we are now not at 5% repatriation, but 90% of ancestors. And 73% for cultural items as well. That's significant, just so you all know. We are setting a model that looks different than everyone else by doing that. And yes, we have more work that still needs to be done, but the progress has been impressive. In addition to that, many of you know that when Draper Hall was built, the Residence Hall, that there was an ancestor who was located in that area. And the campus, as part of building that hall, unearthed that individual, and they have been in a facility here on campus since then. I'm very, very proud to report that that individual has been returned and is now resting in peace here on campus. That was a very important thing for us to do. Another part of creating an environment of hope and dignity for our students is what's happening with our cultural and academic resource centers. When I arrived here at Sacramento State, we couldn't really call what we had as centers truly centers. They had the right heart, but they didn't have the right resources. They had the right motivations, they had the right strategies, but what can you do when one person is in a center and meant to do magic for an entire community? It was an unfair expectation. And it's something that we have worked to change. Today, our Cultural and Academic Resource Center, which we call CARCS, have successfully completed the hiring of 17 positions. Each center now has a director, a coordinator, an assistant program coordinator, an intern, and a faculty scholar. So they are no longer lounges, they are truly cultural centers. And integrated within these centers are academic advising and other resources for supporting student mental health, career services, tutoring, and other things that ensure that students can be successful. In addition to our cultural centers, part of creating an environment of hope and dignity is also the support that's happening around mental health. We are fortunately at the point where we have reached our goal of a counselor to student ratio of 1 to 1,500. That's significant. The reason that's significant is that many of our students face incredible challenges. Think about what it would feel like right now to be an international student. What would it feel right now to be one of our undocumented students? So it was critical as a campus that we move forward in making sure that that came to fruition. In addition to cultural centers and mental health support, we also have basic needs efforts that we're doing here on campus. We have long known that student success starts with student health and well-being. And one of the challenges that we know we have is we have students who struggle with food and housing. I got to say, 2 years ago when I first came to Sacramento State, I reflected very publicly about how I would go 2 or 3 days at a time without eating here, how I lived in my car when I was a student for part of the time while I was here on campus. And then what happened after I started sharing that was something that I didn't expect. I would have students who would walk up to me and be like, hey, so looking behind themselves, I heard you say that you used to live in your car when you're on campus, and I want you to know that I'm living in my car right now. But I mean, if you can do it, then that means that I can do it. And I'm like, I was glad to hear like that was inspirational in some ways, but I was really more upset that we still have this happening here on our campus. And so last year, thanks to the vision of then ASI President Natalie Andrade Dominguez, we set out to open up a new center here on campus that would support basic needs in addition to what's happening in Associated Students Incorporated. So this spring, we'll be opening up the Basic Needs Center, which will be in the Well, which will be offering free groceries, personal hygiene products, clothing, diapers, ensuring that no student has to choose between buying food and buying textbooks. But part of basic needs is also making sure the students have a roof over their head. And many of our students, as I mentioned, struggle with where they sleep at night. So starting in 2026, we'll be launching a live-on requirement for Sacramento State for first-time freshmen. This will ensure that students are living on campus who are from a certain distance away from campus, not for our local students here, so that when students are coming here, we know that they have a roof over their head and they know where their next meal is coming from. As you all know, 2 years ago, we established a strategic action as part of the plan that expands out housing that's taking place on campus. We're building Mount Whitney. We've got Hornet Place that's in progress as well, and other plans to expand housing opportunities for our students. Starting in 2027, this policy will expand to require first-time freshmen to live on campus, not just for 1 year, but for their first 2 years. Now, let me explain a little bit about why. Again, it's not students who live here in Sacramento. It's our students who are coming from farther away. We want to make sure that when they're coming to Sacramento State, they know where they're coming to. I got to say, being at Sacramento Hall, we have a lot of students who walk up who into our offices and talk to us about some of the challenges they're having and where they're going to stay, where they're going to lay their head at night. And so we have to be able to provide these students with resources so that they're not sleeping in a car, sleeping in a garage, sleeping in an apartment that we got 10 students in one place. We have to do better as a campus community. So it's not just about basic needs, though that's a core part of it. It's also about student success. When you're a commuter student and you go home, you go home. When you're a student who lives in our residence hall and you go home to academic advising and tutoring and supplemental instruction and residence hall advisors and access to all the events that are happening on campus. You never stop learning. And we want to make sure that if we're thinking about our continued growth in graduation rates and student success, the campuses that have taken it further from where we're at right now, this is what they've done. So we'll be communicating more about this to the campus community as we get closer to this taking place. But it's important to make sure that the campus community is aware of where we're going. Just a couple last points here before we go to reception. I also want to acknowledge the work that's happened around our employee resource groups. Our employee resource groups are a vital resource for faculty and staff. These groups foster belonging, professional growth, and community. These groups are open to all Sac State faculty and staff, whether you identify with that particular community or not, you're a supporter, you're an ally, or you're simply just interested in engaging in healthy ways. And we have 14 groups as of today. 14 employee resource groups, including some fast-growing groups such as our Jewish Faculty and Staff Association, the Chicanx, Latinx Mentoring Network, and our Queer and Trans Faculty and Staff Association, among many others. Each of these groups provide networking opportunities, mentoring resources, and connections that strengthen our mission and enrich our Hornet family. These groups promote dignity and hope by advocating for inclusive policies, addressing campus climate concerns, and building the cross-community understanding that makes us stronger. If we don't have a group that speaks to your interests, I invite you to explore creating your own group. That is always welcome. And you can, if you're interested in doing that, is Dr. Nguyen here? All right, can you stand up real quick? You can reach out to Dr. Nguyen. And we can help get that rolling. I heard loud and clear during my listening sessions that too many of our staff felt that they had to move out to move up. Y'all have heard that before. You got to move out to move up, or you got to go to grow, right? That's a common thing that people say here. And partly it's because we do a really good job of training employees for Davis and our local community colleges. I mean, like, we specialize in it. But we don't want to do that anymore. And people have felt for a long time like they had to leave to get a better opportunity. And certainly there are times where that makes sense, but we also lose critical people in our community who really many times want to be there here. To that end, we initiated the Promote SAC State Staff Initiative, which was informed by multiple staff and administrative focus groups aimed to cultivate a culture of learning. The goal is to equip staff with the technical and soft skills needed to thrive and grow within the university. Our next steps include launching a skills pathway series, including access to hands-on technology training, campus forums to learn from peers, and launching a career development webpage to guide staff through personal growth plans. Yeah. And I'd also like to share the last new effort that I believe will encourage the climate of hope and dignity: collective access and inclusive event planning. And there's some good reasons for this, as some of you all may remember from last year. Too often as a campus community, we have not lived up to our goal to be inclusive by creating an environment where everyone feels that they are valued and that they belong. We recognize that repeatedly people are having challenges in access and having basic access, facing accommodation denials, or encountering inaccessible experiences, which causes real harm to members of our community. I'm pleased to share that we've recently adopted a new campus policy for collective access and inclusive event planning, a significant step forward in how we approach accessibility across campus. Written in close collaborations with members of the deaf, hard of hearing, and disabled campus communities, this policy represents a fundamental shift from reactive accommodation to proactive inclusive design. This policy directs anyone who plans events on campus to ensure that accessibility is part of the planning process from the outset, not after the fact. This policy is another step towards creating a campus culture where dignity and accessibility aren't an afterthought, but foundational to everything that we do. So I've shared a lot about where we're at with many of the initiatives here on campus. Fortunately, despite the circumstances that we're in, of those 23 action items, we've made significant progress on most of them. We're doing the work as a campus. We're increasing enrollment, we're increasing graduation rates, and we're doing all this at one of the most difficult times ever to be in higher education. But Sacramento State is coming through. We are shining. We're becoming a national exemplar. And I would like to say that the nation is watching. And they will continue to watch as we lean in on our values while others lean out. Thank you, and have a good rest of your morning.